Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Soul Focus Radio. This is your host, Martin Friedman, and I'm so excited to be joined by one of our facilitators, Dr. Martina Tam. Hey, Martina.
Hey, Martin. Great to be here with you.
Great to be here with you too. How are you doing today? How's life in the Pacific Northwest?
It has finally cooled down, so I am enjoying our cool 70.
Okay. Nice, nice. Well, as you know, I was just out there last weekend for the first time in a year and a half. I got to meet you in person, which was
Mm-hmm.
awesome. But I also got to experience the fires, the smoke. And I mean, not that there's fires in Seattle, but just smoke from the fires, I think, that are mostly in Canada right now. And it was pretty intense out there, really, really smoky and kind of smoggy too.
I know, it's kind of our sad new reality, the
Yeah.
smoke every summer. But it was so awesome to finally meet you in person.
Yeah, it really was. It really was great. I've met so many people virtually, right?
Mm-hmm.
During the coronavirus times. And then now I'm starting to meet everybody in person, and it's great, It really is. There's nothing like being in person, nothing like
Mm-hmm.
it.
Yeah. I don't know for
So
you. It's been wild for me. Sometimes I forget because we've met so much virtually. I'm like, wait, have we
yes.
met in person?
Yes, yes, I do the same thing, right? And then when you meet the
Yeah.
person in person, you're like, "Oh, I've never met this person," not human to human. It's just such an interesting world we live in right now, just how we define even what meeting is and spending time with somebody is. But
Mm-hmm.
it was truly awesome being out there with the Seattle family and getting to see everybody, getting to see my godsons, and it was just awesome. It was really awesome. And
That's
my
great.
grandsons too. I can't forget my grandsons and godsons. Yeah. So really, we want to just use this first episode as an opportunity just to get to know you a little bit. So, really just jump in and tell us about, who you are, what you do, anything that you want folks to know about you, in the soul focus world.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Hmm.
Well, like you were saying, my name's Martina Tam, and I grew up in the Seattle area. I grew up in a suburb of Seattle. And, as I was thinking about this, I was trying to think, who am I? And I think such a big part of my identity has been that I am a child of immigrants. So my
Mm.
dad came over from Hong Kong, and then my mom came over from Germany, both of them in their 20s.
Mm.
And, being mixed race, being the child of immigrants, growing up in a multilingual household, it really, I think, formed a lot of this feeling of who I am and started me on this journey that eventually has led me to work with Soul Focus Group. A lot of that being mixed race, mixed culture. There was kind of always this feeling of otherness because there's not very many German Chinese Americans who you meet in the
Right.
suburbs of Seattle. And so I found that as I was growing up and then through college, the folks I was always most drawn to were people who felt some feeling of otherness from the mainstream world. And so I think that's kind of where actually I first encountered Dustin Washington, one of the co-founders of Soul Focus Group, that kind of got me started on this journey.
Nice, nice. So tell us a little bit of the story about how your parents meet, because not only do I think that mixed race German Chinese people are rare in the suburbs of Seattle, I think that might be rare in a lot of places in the United States. So tell us a little bit about the story about how you came to be, how your parents met and got together.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty cute story. So my mom came over as an au pair after high school, and
Mm.
my dad had come over for college, and they were both in Boston. And my mom has a very infectious laugh. She's from,
Mm.
so yeah, she's the German one.
Hmm.
And my dad heard her laugh in a smoky cafe. And as she was, and my dad, ironically, he studied German in high school in Hong Kong. So he overheard her. He knew she was speaking German. And as she left, he thought the best pickup line is if I ask if she's French. And then she'll say no, and we'll have a great conversation. So he walks up, asks if she's French, and she's just like, no, and walked away. But I guess she made such an impression. He says he came back to the cafe every day until she came again. And then they had a drink, and the rest is history.
Wow, that's a pretty good story. That's a
Yeah,
pretty
it's
good
pretty
story.
cute.
Yeah, I think my favorite part is the failed pickup line
Yeah, totally
of your
fail.
dad. Oh, this is gonna be great. Nope, and just walks out. That is really funny. Yeah, it sounds like your parents are characters for sure. So that's how you got connected to Soul Focus Group, is when you first met Dustin. But tell us a little bit about your, professional life, your journey to, becoming a doctor and all of that as well.
Yeah. So I think a big part, I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor until a little bit later in life after college, actually. But as I look back on it, I kind of see that I was already on that journey. I grew up with my Chinese grandmother. She lived with us from when I was 1 to 17. And so
Hmm.
in high school, one of my jobs was being a caregiver for her, and we were very close.
Hmm.
And so just a lot of that physical care and caring for an elder and that connection kind of through caring, that human connection through physical caring for someone.
Hmm.
And then my older sister has struggled with learning disabilities due to an illness that she had at birth. And so, I remember going to Children's Hospital a lot as a kid, and, she would get all the pokes and I would get like free toys. But
Hmm.
just seeing her experience and experiencing, and then later on reflecting the experience of my parents, even though they're very well educated, both, being accented with non American accents and immigrants and not understanding the healthcare system, some of the struggles they face, which I think compared to, many people in this country are minimal, but still how their experience then affected a lot of my sister's health and outcomes. And so that was kind of always in the back of my mind.
Hmm.
And then I went after college, I actually moved to China to live with my dad. He was there for work, and he had some health issues that were pretty miraculously improved with acupuncture. And
Mm.
so I kind of started down a journey in China of studying acupuncture and just fell in love even more with that hands on healing.
Right.
But knew I wanted to be in the US and knew that I wanted to be able to work with people on their health in the most accessible way possible. And at the time, I felt like acupuncture was really only accessible to a few in the US, which is why I felt that becoming a physician would allow me access to more people and a larger variety of communities, and then try to incorporate acupuncture into that practice.
Mm. That's really good. Thank you for sharing that. And then tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing now, because I think it's, where you ended up, in terms of where you're doing your practice right now, I think is pretty fascinating too.
Yeah, so I did medical school here in Seattle at the University of Washington, and then did my residency training in family medicine at Kaiser in Seattle. And then just this past September, started working for the Puyallup tribe at their clinic in Tacoma, Washington.
Okay.
So it's an urban clinic on an urban reservation, and I get to do kind of everything from delivering babies, caring for babies, and then caring for folks up until the end of their lives, and then also working with residents.
And how's that experience been for you so far?
It's been good. I say because it's also it's hard. Everyone
Right.
says your first job out of residency is like doing residency all over again. There's just so much to learn. So definitely a steep learning curve, but super fulfilling. I'm really grateful to be where I am and helping me to kind of re-examine not only learning sort of medical information, but re-examine how do I work with communities and interact and support patients in ways that are both, I hate the phrase culturally sensitive, but kind of that aspect.
Right.
Because there's all these check boxes of like, this is what you should do to be on all the right medicines. And then, well, okay, well, where are you at? And how do we work with you? And then getting to care for so many families has been really fulfilling. So that's a really fun part of my job, is caring for siblings and parents and kids and kind of getting to know everyone together and learning that dynamic.
Yeah, no, that sounds really awesome. And, so I'm thinking about the culture, right? Because, we talk about cultural competency. I know when I was working in social services in the Seattle area, we started talking about cultural relevancy as sort of the evolution to that, looking deep at culture now. with Soul Focus Group, we talk about the integration of consciousness, which is really the integration of cultural consciousness, right?
Hmm.
So, talk a little bit about what that's been like for you to be in an indigenous space, you coming from multiple cultural backgrounds, right? Because I think your story is a story of being intercultural, at least as much as it is being interracial, right? What has that been like to really approach the work that you're doing with indigenous people from that place of really trying to integrate cultural consciousness?
Yeah, one of the things that really drew me to work for a tribe is that it's so unique being able to work for an organization, especially a healthcare organization that is run by non-white people. And,
Right.
in this case, run by an indigenous community. And so, yes, we still have a lot of the healthcare system pieces, but
Yeah.
there is much more of that cultural integration instead of the assimilation that we talk about with Soul Focus Group.
Right.
And actually, in medical school, I took a year off to work at a tribally run clinic up in Alaska called South Central Foundation because they did this amazing work where in 20 years they transformed their healthcare system from being a place where you could really only get healthcare by going into the emergency room. So any
Mhm.
preventive care you wanted, you had to go wait in the ER. That was the only way to see a doctor, to being really one of the world's best healthcare organization in terms of outcomes, quality improvement. So really wanted to learn from them about how did you make this cultural transformation and then do it in a way that is connected to Alaska Native values and culture.
Mm.
And working there was such a profound difference. It was the first place I worked that was majority people of color. Leadership were people of color, and you could feel the difference. And to me, that is really fulfilling, even though I'm not Native. Just being in a place where there is that difference, you can actually feel the integration versus the assimilation that, compared to larger healthcare organizations was a really beautiful thing for me and really soul fulfilling for me. And so, doing it for a lot of selfish reasons too.
Yeah. Well, that's a good kind of selfishness. That's not really what I call selfish, right? Because it sounds like, you like it because it allows you to be even better at what you do, right?
Hmm.
I'm glad you brought that up. I used to do a lot of work training, anti-racism training in Alaska with Alaska Native populations, Yupik and Chupik folks mostly. And that's where I got introduced to the idea of like cultural reconnective therapy mostly in the mental health field, but certainly in the physical health as well. But, they really had these incredible success rates in terms of sobriety, in terms of quote unquote non reoffending or non recidivism. They had programs for people that had addiction issues. They had programs for people that, it really wasn't a program. I think the better way of saying it is it was a process of reconnecting back to indigenous culture. And, people that had been convicted of sex offenses, just folks that we often see as throwaway in society. And, they reconnected them to, in Alaska, as you know from being there, that's only a few generations,
Hmm.
they're only 100, 150 years away from really not having Europeans around very much. Of course, some Europeans from Russia, come over like I think in the late 1800s, early 1900s, but they're really not very far away from being able to live pretty much an uninterrupted life according to their indigenous ways. So that reconnection, that cultural reconnective therapy and cultural reconnective approach, I saw as being like crucial, and I think it's translatable to other cultures. Is that kind of in line with what you saw and what you believe, what you're seeing at in Puyallup?
Yeah, absolutely. So South Central had a similar program where it was a 5-day retreat about healing. And so people were able to go to heal, whether they had experienced trauma themselves and or maybe perpetrated or continued the cycle of trauma and was a space for
Yeah.
healing. And what was so amazing to me is that as an employee, you could go on this retreat and be paid for it. And it just really was so incredible because the majority of employees are Native. Taking care of your employees translates to also taking care of your community. So we were
Right.
just so well cared for. Like every week we had an hour of paid time to go exercise. And we had a gym on campus with exercise classes that were
Mm,
available for all of our, they didn't even call their patients, they call them customer owners,
hmm.
for their customer owners and for employees. And so it was just such a healthy environment where, so uniquely in healthcare, we're often overworked that your healthcare providers might be extremely unhealthy. But in
Yeah,
this case, because their community was also their employees, it just created this whole wraparound environment where if we care for our employees, it's the same as caring for our community. And it's a really beautiful and, sadly unique thing.
right, right. And you saw it being very effective in terms of outcomes.
Absolutely. And you'd see people do extremely well in the organization and really grow and thrive and
Hmm.
move their way up in experience and skills through the support of the organization, which is just such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, that is really awesome. You're really getting my brain rushing on a lot of stuff, and I'm thinking about a lot of stuff we can talk about in part two. Anything else that you want to share about, who you are, what's going on in your life, just anything else that you want people to know about you?
Yeah, I think, something I was thinking about, Martin, I appreciate that question, was,
Hmm.
why did I get drawn to this work initially? And
Yes.
I think I didn't realize it at the time, but as we're doing our work with Soul Focus Group, is I needed to heal,
Mm.
and I didn't realize that. And so
Hmm.
I first met Dustin when I was 18. I was a freshman in college, and I don't remember the details of it, but somehow I like asked him to come do a training with the People's Institute at our university, and
Okay.
that's how we got to know each other. And I just think about, at the time, so much was, well, I just want to educate myself. But I really see that, my interest in what we at that time were calling like anti racism work, and what I love, you call it like pro humanity work now,
Right.
is that I didn't understand how race and racism were affecting me, but on some subconscious level, I knew that it was a big part of what I was working through. And I think about that a lot about, how profoundly powerful our concept and this idea of race and racism is in our society, because I think there's a lot of healing that I have to do with my relationship with my mother, who is white.
Right.
And what does that mean to have a mother who is white? And then what does it mean to be mixed race and be in a mixed race family? And then out in the world, what has it meant to encounter racism just as a person of color, sometimes racially ambiguous, sometimes seen as obviously Asian,
Mm.
sometimes seen as mixed? And so I really think that is what drew me to initially, start down that path of education with the People's Institute,
Yeah.
and then now get to this much deeper level of what I was really looking for, which was healing for
Mm.
myself and for my family. And then I'm so grateful to have been on this journey because, as you know, but our listeners can't see, is I'm pregnant with our
Yeah.
first baby. And so thinking a lot about what does it mean now for me becoming a mother of a child who is going to be mixed race. I don't know how they'll present in the world, but they'll
Right.
have lots of mixed cultures and languages in their life as well. And so how do I start to process this journey now as a mother to be?
Mm. Yeah, that's a lot. That's really a lot. And one of the things I love about what you're saying is it really mirrors the development of the Soul Focus Group. Your journey does, because I think we all moved. We all were ready to move and evolve from just the educational piece. Not, I mean, it's like just the educational piece. I'm not trying to diminish it, because the educational piece is incredibly needed, powerful, strong. Enlightening and mind opening and expanding for many people, including myself. And then our journey, asked us to go somewhere else, and we didn't even know. I think that somewhere else we had to go was healing. Both a personal healing that then coincides with a collective healing. So I think your particular journey, very much mirrors all of us with Soul Focus Group. And the reason why Soul Focus Group exists. And it exists for your soon to be baby, your soon to be child. I guess they're already a baby, but your soon to be out in the world child, right? And
Yeah.
this is about, as you know, we talk all the time about moving from a place of just fighting to creating something new. And your child and Dustin's children and Cindy Edwards' children and Cindy Carnegie's children. I'm naming the people in our organization that have babies, have small children. And this is why we are doing it, because we need this new generation that's coming here. We need to help give them the opportunity to create something outside of the bonds of racism, if you will. That's something to be created new and beautiful, without having to spend so much energy on just surviving this racist construct.
Exactly. And I love that, the focus on creating. How do we create a different world for these kids and for
Yeah.
ourselves?
Exactly. So, you know what? We're gonna call this first episode. We're gonna end it now. And what I want to talk to you about in part two for us is I really want to talk about what does a new culture of delivering healthcare look like. I was inspired by our conversation earlier around cultural reconnection, and it makes me think about conversations I've been having really over the last couple of days about the current approach of our healthcare system, which is one of reacting to people that are already sick and not, really creating health and wellness to prevent people from being sick, and kind of what the cost benefits analysis of that is. So I would love to, kind of delve into that from your unique perspective, if we can, in part two, and talk about anything else we want to as well. But that's what I'm really feeling based on what we just talked about.
That sounds great.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thank you, and excited to have part two. Thank you all for listening, as always, being on this journey with us to get to know us better collectively. And we can't wait to get to know you. We invite you to come to soulfocusgroup.com, see the journeys that we're on, join us on this journey in as many different ways as you can. Check out our podcast on all the different platforms. And we ask that you stay safe, you stay sane, you stay well, you stay healthy, and most importantly, that all of us stay soul focused.